Get ready to witness the legendary battle between man and serpent. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, welcome back to About Art. Today I will be visiting the Vatican museums to look at an extremely famous work of art in the history of Western art. A work of art that depicts a mesmerizing mix of pain, suffering, tragedy and beauty. So let's go and discuss Laocoön and his sons. Here we go. This ancient work of art depicts a mix of horror and beauty. As the viewer, you are caught between flinching at the figure's pain and admiring their beautiful and idealized forms. So you're probably wondering what on earth is going on here and what is the story behind this scene. The sculptural group depicts a mythological scene from Virgil's Aeneid. Laocoön, the central figure, was a Trojan priest of the god Apollo. During the mythical Trojan War, Laocoön was suspicious of the wooden horse sent by the Greeks, their enemies, and that was left, supposedly as a gift, outside the city gates of Troy. Laocoön warned his fellow Trojans against bringing it inside the city walls, and in fact, the wooden horse, also known as the Trojan Horse, was filled with Greeks waiting to attack the city of Troy during the dead of the night. The goddess Athena and the god Poseidon, who sided with the Greeks, got angry and were afraid that the Trojans would actually listen to Laocoön and thereby ruin the Greeks' sneaky plan. So they sent two monstrous sea serpents up from the sea to strangle Laocoön and his sons. So this sculpture portrays the dire consequences of Laocoön's mistake. He unknowingly went against the plan of the gods, and he was duly punished for doing so. The Trojans took their tragic death to mean that Laocoön was mistaken and that the wooden horse was indeed a peace gift from the Greeks, and they brought it inside the city walls. And then, during the dead of the night, the Greeks slid out of the horse, opened the gates, and led their soldiers into Troy. The tragedy of this sculpture is monumental. The sculpture not only expresses a great deal of pain on the part of the three figures, but also foreshadows the future pain of all Trojans. The three figures' imminent deaths prefigure the countless Trojans who were soon to lose their lives at the hands of the Greeks. So now that we know the story that this sculpture depicts, let's take a closer look at each of the three figures. All three figures are life-size, which makes the sculpture really affecting. We have Laocoön in the center of the sculptural group, with his two sons on either side of him. All three figures are being attacked by two giant sea serpents that have wrapped themselves around the figure's limbs and writhing bodies. One serpent is biting at Laocoön's left hip, the other is attacking the right side of his youngest son's ribcage. The serpent's eyes are intimidating. These are clearly aggressive serpents. You can feel the force of their grip, the sheer weight of their bodies, and the stinging pain of their bite. Laocoön's youngest son, on the left, is the most helpless figure of the three. His upper body arches backwards and his right arm flails upwards. The serpent has wrapped itself around his right knee and almost appears to be lifting him off the ground with its sheer force. He looks hopeless. He almost looks as if he is about to give up, or has already given up. Laocoön's older son is looking on in horror at his family, all the while trying to fight his own battle against the serpents. Laocoön's pose is incredibly expressive and tragic. He's valiantly fighting the serpents and struggling to win the battle. His muscles are bulging and his veins are prominent. These details encapsulate the force that he is exerting against the serpents, and in turn highlights the power and unbeatable strength of the giant sea serpents. Not even a figure of this caliber and possessing such musculature is able to defeat them. Now, the dating of this sculpture has been famously difficult. In the 18th century, the very prominent art historian and connoisseur Winckelmann dated it to the 4th century BC, namely the classical period. But then Pliny, the ancient Roman historian, mentioned this very sculpture in his writings. He wrote that he had seen a sculpture of this subject in the emperor's palace, and he attributes the work to three Greek sculptors from Rhodes: Athanadoros, Hagisandros, and Polydoros of Rhodes. He also described the sculpture as a work to be preferred to all that the arts of painting and sculpture have produced. Now, the sculptors that Pliny names can be traced back to the 1st century BC. But are we to trust Pliny's account? He did also say that the sculpture was carved from a single block of marble, which is not true. Stylistically speaking, the power, energy, dynamism, and sense of tragedy are not associated with the ancient Greek classical period, but with the Hellenistic style, which dates to the 3rd or 2nd century BC. Today, most scholars agree that the sculpture is a marble copy of a now lost bronze original executed by 3 sculptors from Rhodes in the 1st century BC and commissioned by the ancient Greek city of Pergamon. Pergamon eventually came under Roman rule, which explains how the sculpture, or at least a copy of the sculpture, ended up in Rome. What's interesting is that in light of its original context, this sculpture was originally intended as a sculptural warning about how great civilizations can fall and be extinguished. But the Romans likely interpreted it differently. For the Romans, the death of Laocoön and his sons was seen as a necessary sacrifice that ultimately led to Aeneas fleeing the burning city of Troy and founding the great city of Rome. And so this sculpture was likely seen as a commemoration of Laocoön's tragic but necessary sacrifice. Now, even if we don't completely understand its history, we can still appreciate this sculpture and the effect that it has on us, the viewer. Imagine what this scene sounds like. You can almost hear the hissing of the serpents and the cry of agony coming from Laocoön's open mouth. This sculpture is full of dynamism. Look at the serpentine twist of each of the figures' bodies. There is an emphasis on diagonals, on instability. Notice that none of the figures have both feet firmly planted on the floor. They are all balancing on a single foot, and that gives you a sense of the chaos they are experiencing. All aspects of the sculpture are incredibly expressive. The figures' poses and gestures really communicate struggle and pain. But I think that the most expressive element of this sculpture is Laocoön's face. His head tilts dramatically backwards, and his expression is one of absolute agony and suffering. It really is an expression that incites an emotional response from the viewer. We feel his pain. The way in which Laocoön's body has been rendered is astonishing. Look at the accuracy, the attention to detail, the profound knowledge of human anatomy. We see Laocoön's ribcage, we see the muscles and the tendons in his legs. The same sense of careful attention to the body and naturalistic carving is also present in Renaissance art, and the Laocoön is one of the main reasons why. Let me explain. This sculpture was discovered in the 16th century. It was found by accident on the Esquiline Hill in Rome, allegedly by a farmer who came across its edge while ploughing a field. When this sculpture was unearthed in the 16th century, it immediately blew up with fame because, of course, at the time, all artists and humanists were fascinated with all things antique. The Pope's artists were immediately called and told to come and see the ancient work of art being unearthed. So its discovery was witnessed by a few very significant Renaissance artists, including Michelangelo himself. And surely enough, this work of art was incredibly influential for Renaissance artists and their approach to depicting the human body. Michelangelo's figures in particular exhibit a similar sense of serpentine tension and of anatomical perfection. So the discovery of this sculpture in the 16th century was an extremely important moment in the history of Western art. As soon as the sculptural group was fully unearthed, all those present started to draw it and sketch it, all the while discussing it in awe. And to make things even more exciting, the artists and humanists present at the scene were able to immediately identify the sculpture because they had read about it in Pliny's writings. So the Renaissance artists, upon the sculpture's unearthing, were able to say, this is the Laocoön that Pliny writes about. When it was discovered in the 16th century, the sculptural group was in fragments, and one of the most significant parts of it that were missing was Laocoön's right arm. This missing limb sparked a lot of controversy concerning the likely original position of his right arm. And then suddenly, in the early 1990s, the scholar Ludwig Pollack found the original arm in an antique shop in Rome. He bought it and brought it back to the Vatican, and it matched up perfectly with Laocoön's shoulder. The arm was attached to the shoulder in 1958 in the manner that we see today. So this gesture with Laocoön's right arm moving back behind his shoulder is the pose agreed upon by art historians, what they believe to be the original placement of the arm. Seeing this sculpture in person is such an extraordinary and moving experience. The work of art holds such a heavy weight of tragedy and of drama, and at the same time, an unrivaled sense of beauty. Its narrative, told through the medium of marble, really does keep you captive. Alright everyone, that is everything for this week's vlog. I really hope you enjoyed learning about the Laocoön and his sons. If you enjoyed learning about Laocoön and his sons, give this video a big like and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for similar content. As per usual, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, as well as what work of art you would like to see from me next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.